Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm going to be reviewing for you guys Brynhildr. So Brynhildr is a limited single target Buster Lancer that is going to be coming up in the banner for NA with the Lotto whenever it gets announced. And I'm hoping that might happen in the next couple days here, but we'll just have to see. Keep your eyes peeled for an announcement on that. Very quickly here, though, I did want to go over the actual banner. There are two 5-star units in it. Again, Bryn and basically Summer Umu here. And the issue that we have on JP is that there's only just this rotational rate up that they each had. You won't get that where there's a banner with both of them. Instead, you're just going to get functionally two different banners. You're going to have a Bryn banner alongside a Caster Umu banner. And that's probably just how it'll go for the duration of the event. Again, I wouldn't expect anything to change in that regard. You'll probably have Estrella available on both banners, but that'll remain to be seen. It might be one, it might be the other. It'll probably depend on how they choose to do it. And actually, I'm not sure how Korea or Taiwan had it in that regard, but it's probably just one or the other. It's probably either she's available on either or she's available on both. And I'm just going to say that I would think it would be both. With regards to the 3 stars, you're not going to care. None of these are rare or limited, so they're just going to be available regardless, and you're just going to have a higher rate up chance for them, so more coins. Now, again, with regards to Bryn, as we were just saying, she is limited. She actually doesn't get a lot of banners over time, so I think there's some times where you really need to try to actually get her if you want her. And this is going to be one of those banners, one of those rare banners that she actually does show up on. So I figured it'd be a good time to actually go over the review for her with you guys. So let's go ahead and dive right in. As you guys can see, Bryn here has 11.4k attack. This is actually not that strong in terms of attack, but she is making up for that by being relatively beefy on the HP side of things, almost to 15k. So I am okay with that, as she does have a little bit of extra girth there to sort of help her stay alive. Now, she is sky traded. She has also got a fairly low star absorption, but it's nothing too concerning. She has decent star gen there and a 1.07 NP charge attack, which if you can see the edge of the deck here below, you already understand why that's probably the case. That is a very high NP charge attack, but that is decent, at least with regards to what her deck is. Here's a 4% NP charge defense, which is 1% higher than normal, but again, nothing too crazy in that regard. And she has a 32% death rate, which is a little bit slightly higher than normal. So again, just watch out if a unit facing her has death. She is neutral good alignment. She is female. She is a divine spirit trait, a divinity trait, humanoid, levitating servant, riding, just a normal servant, 7 knight servant, which again, that's Beast Umu's trait there, and Valkyrie trait as well. She is also weak to Inima Elish. Now, looking at the overall deck here, you guys can see she's 2 Buster, 2 Quick, 1 Arts. This is actually our standard Lancer deck. We do see this most of the time with most Lancers that come out, and since Bryn was one of the earlier on Lancers, we definitely see that she has that sort of standard deck. Now, double Buster here, again, with a Buster NP definitely is a nice thing because that's going to allow you to form a triple Buster Brave chain with her NP. That does mean that you'll potentially be able to follow up an NP with some really hard-hitting cards and a decently charged extra attack in terms of its raw capability. It is only 1 hit. That is certainly a concern, but hey, welcome back to early on Servants where they hadn't really figured out hit counts just yet. She only has a 2-hit arts card, and that really does explain the 1.07 NP gain rate there, as that's only 1 arts card, and it's only 2-hit, which is lower than average still. So, yeah, that is going to be one of the concerns that you're going to have with her, is actually getting to another NP by way of carding. That being said, she does still have 2 quick cards here to help her out with that. Those are 3 hits. That is coming in right at average. Plus, I think you guys will see, again, she does have the riding trait, so that'll help out the quick card performance some. And again, remember, that's just going to help out its overall, damage that those cards deal, as well as the stars that they generate. So it's a definitely nice thing to have, but still, it is what it is. Now, let's take a look at her deck here. Her first skill here is just your typical mana burst. It has Buster performance up of 1 turn of 25%, as well as NP damage of 15% for 1 turn. So it strays from being a normal mana burst in the fact that most normal mana bursts just have a block amount. This one instead is split between Buster and MP damage. This is actually kind of good because it's two different types of buffs, so they multiplicatively scale with each other. But it is certainly an issue where even if you were to add this up, just aggregate right there, that would only be 40% damage there. So it's not even a strong like 50% steroid in that sense. And even if you would to combine the two together, they would not be stronger than a 50%, which is a concern. But still a really, really nice skill there, and all on a 5-turn cooldown. So remember, whenever we start looking at this from a sort of Buster standpoint, a Koyanskaya standpoint, we start thinking about things in terms of cooldowns. So having a 5-turn cooldown means that you could pop this potentially on turn 2 and turn 3 of a 3-turn farm, or again, just a boss kill that's going to happen within 3 turns. You wouldn't want to pop it turn 1 potentially because, well, hey, you know, you probably don't need it turn 1. But you could. You could also pop it turn 1 and 2 or turn 1 and 3 if you so chose. It's just typically waves as you go on in terms of a battle have a tendency to get more health each turn. So popping it on turn 2 and turn 3 is getting you the most bang for your buck. Now, from there, she gets her second skill here, and that's Primeval Rune. This skill started out in a really weird place. It reduces one enemy's critical attack chance for 3 turns by 50%. That is actually really strong. It's going to pretty much prevent a lot of units without them having crit buffs from actually critting. So really good there for her in that regard. And then it's also going to reduce their NP damage for 1 turn by 30%. The problem that I always have with these is NP damage reductions have a tendency to just still not allow you to live through an NP. So not really that good of a skill. In fact, I think the devs sort of noticed this because over time they come back and they actually end up buffing Primeval Rune. And this is actually where Bryn gets her charge. And from that point on, she is a 30% charger. That certainly helps her out a lot more in comparison to other units like, say, Shisho or Enkidu. Definitely helps her hold her ground against them, as again, especially originally Enkidu did not have charge. Recently, Enkidu has gotten that on JP that has really just kind of catapulted Enkidu into another level all his own. But, Clay's own at that point. But still, it's one of those deals where this 30% is certainly welcome and very useful to her. Otherwise, everything else on this stays the same. Nothing too much to worry about. It is a 6-turn skill, so this does mean that you can pop it on turn 1 and 3 within a Koyanskaya setup, which is really good for a 30% charger, as, again, just sort of talking about her charging capability here, let's do the whole solve for 300 thing that I like to do. Functionally, you could start her out with her 30% charge skill there on turn 1. You could also start her out with a maxed out mana loading. That would get you 50% right there for turn 1. So starting her out with a 50% CE would certainly be doable. And then you could do double Koyanskaya charge skills here on the second turn. That would get her up to 100% for turn 2. She could NP again there. And then turn 3, because of the cooldown reduction on the Koyanskaya skills, you would end up getting the 30% charge back again. So throw in an Oberon, and right there, that's 100% for turn 3. So she can be made to 3-turn from a 50% starting charge standpoint. So that is actually really nice and does allow her a decent amount of power right there. So definitely a good upgrade for her. Her third skill is Hero's Bridesmaid C. It increases one ally's critical star absorption for 3 turns by 600%, so it's a targeted ability here, and 600% is decent. It's not going to be probably enough to really help out your Avengers and Berserkers, but this will probably help out most other units, and even in that regard, who knows, it may just reshuffle the stars for you, and you may actually find that your Berserker or Avenger ends up with a little bit more stars than they otherwise would have had, so it still might be worth using on them, all things considered. It's also going to recover the target's HP by 3,000. This is actually a really decent spot heal right off the bat here for all on a 5-turn cooldown. So you can pop this back-to-back turns in a Koyanskaya setup, but hey, if you're needing healing at a Koyanskaya setup, oh boy, there's something going terribly wrong here potentially. Or you are stuck in a challenge fight against a single boss with break bars, which is probably the far more likely scenario for someone like Bryn. Now, this skill does also have an upgrade that happens, and again, it increases the ally's critical star absorption for 3 turns by 3,000%, From there, that is a much more robust amount, and yes, that will actually help out your Berserkers and your Avengers in terms of star soaking. So it is strong enough to be able to be used on them and make a tangible difference. It also gains critical damage for 3 turns of 40%, so definitely another nice upgrade there, as again, due to the low cooldown here, you can certainly double this up for her. So this is going to allow Bryn, if she doubles the skill up on herself, to have an additional 80% crit damage by turn 3. That is nothing to sneeze at. That is some really strong crit potential there for her. And then again, like we said, she just has the HP recovery there. So all in all, a actually fairly good, fairly straightforward kit, but it is absolutely focused on damage, not so much on survivability. So kind of just coming back to this point, you see a little bit why the attack power is low and why the HP was made to be high in order to help out with those overall survival concerns. Because all she really has is crit prevention and healing at the end of the day. And so if she just gets impede on, or she just gets, just absolutely focus fired over and over again, you have certainly concerns that she doesn't have a hard survival skill built in, like invuln, guts, or evasion. Looking at her passive skills here, she has magic resistance B, she has riding A. So again, as we pointed out there, that's just going to help out her quick card performance. It's going to be more stars generated, more damage from her quick cards, so definitely nice. She has Divinity E, which is just a small amount of flat damage added to her attacks, literally 100 damage added, so nothing too crazy there, but hey, better than not having it. Her overall append skills here, as we already pointed out, the mana loading is going to be absolutely the first thing that you should get on her, as this allows her within a standard Koyan Skya and Oberon setup to be able to start out with a much better craft essence than she otherwise would be able to. So that's going to get her more firepower. So literally by getting and maxing her mana loading, you get the potential there to do even more damage. So it's a good idea to grab this one first. Her third one here is anti-lancer attack damage aptitude, and while this doesn't seem that useful, there is a little bit of synergy with the effect of her NP that I will point out to you guys later, so this may be something to consider, but to me, I'm probably still going overall with the extra attack finesse before I go for the third skill. So I would probably go with the second skill first, then the first skill here with the extra attack finesse, which remember, this is not just extra damage for your extra attack, it is also NP generation as well as crit star generation, so it's really a nice thing overall to have. And then the Noble Phantasm, let's talk this. So it starts out basically as a 5-hit single target buster NP that deals damage to one enemy and then increases the party's critical star generation rate by 30% for 3 turns. Honestly, not that bad, other than the fact that it does this after she deals damage, so it's only with subsequent carding that you would gain the benefit there. And then it deals extra damage to loved one enemies, which I'm going to talk about here in a second for the overcharge. But let's go ahead and look at the NP interlude, where she gets kind of the standard NP interlude from 600% being her base to then NP2 basically becomes NP1 as 800% becomes the base, and NP5 becomes NP2 as 1000 becomes the next one. So you guys can see right there, there's your 800 and 1000. So definitely a nice little standard upgrade that she gets there. And then it's also increasing the party's critical star generation rate by 50% for 3 turns. So they up that a little bit more, sort of like a miniature cast skill there. But again, you don't really have the same amount of hit counts there, and it is happening after the NP's damage already goes out. So you're not gaining the effect for the NP itself. You're not generating more stars with your NP. And then again, just talking about the overall overcharge effect here, which is a super effective modifier right here that deals extra damage to loved ones. Loved ones, aka Brynhildr's beloved, is a very interesting niche in the game. It is somewhat random and it is arbitrary because it is just the units that Brynhildr herself likes. She likes these people. She loves these people. So these are her beloveds, and it's done in such a way that if you understand the story of Brynhildr, it's basically that she killed her lover in the end. And so this is kind of like her saying that she has advantage against anyone that she would have the potential to fall in love with. So that's essentially what you see here, but it's not all males either, as you'll notice. And it is a very, very big list of people. To me, the big ones you're going to want to focus on are, and very obviously here, your archers pretty much right here. Don't count Ku in that. Which again, if you did have the third append, you could also potentially count lancers. That would give you a little bit of extra damage potential there. And then obviously berserkers as well would be another sort of archetype that she would have extra damage from. So while there are all a lot of units that fall into this, and while you can use Bryn against some of these other units regardless of class capability, I would say that the berserkers and the archers are going to be the ones that you actually really want to keep an eye out for like, hey, yeah, Bryn does more damage against some of these units. And thankfully they are fairly common in terms of archers that you might encounter over time. So definitely a nice niche for her to have. Let's take a look overall at her damage capability here. So you've actually got Bryn up here, and she's pretty much third on the list behind only Enkidu and Shisho. Now, we've talked about this before, that this list can be somewhat deceiving in the sense that it's all neutral numbers. It's all a unit with only their own skills there that are maxed out. You're not getting any sort of class advantage. You're not getting any sort of support buffs from other characters or external sources included in these calculations. The units will scale differently when you actually put them in a comp, but it is a decent tool for comparison to kind of show, you know, damage potential. So Bryn is certainly no slouch when it comes to damage. She can do fairly good damage. In fact, she still is edging Bhima, who just came out on JP not too long ago there. So definitely a nice position to find herself in, as well as the fact that she has the Brynhildr's Beloved niche that allows her to actually damage quite a bit more there. And remember, that is a 77.7k neutral, so you can pretty much just double those numbers, and that would give you an idea about how much effective damage she would be dealing at NP1 against an effective unit. And you can see, if she's in niche, this does make her better than Enkidu outside of threat to humanity niche. Does make her better than Shisho outside of divine or undead niches. So it's certainly one of those cases where your top lancers have a tendency to sort of round robin themselves depending on whatever it is that you're fighting. That being said, Enkidu has one hell of a kit, and you really can't go wrong using Clay. But I do think that Bryn is one of those units that is certainly very solid, and just scaling over right here to kind of show you what the upper echelon of damage for her would do if you got NP5. Yeah, she's quite capable of dealing quite a bit of damage. And it's one of those deals where I think that given the fact that she has 30% charge, like we already talked about, in the Buster system with those really good units, with really good Cs, you can make Brynhildr 3 turns. So it is a really nice setup that she has, and I do think that's something that should factor into your ultimate decisions as to whether or not to roll her. So let's talk here as well about craft essences, because you've heard me talk about, hey, the fact that she could start out at 50%. So to me, one of the obvious candidates there is going to be Aerial Drive. This is a welfare CE from years ago during a Halloween event. You can't really gain access to it right now at this moment, but there will be a rerun of the CE coming up with the new Halloween event in its shop. So it will be available there. It is still welfare. You just got to buy it out of the shop during the event, during Halloween this year. So again, when we get to October, you should have another crack at gaining Aerial Drive. And Aerial Drive is a really strong one because it's all attack scaling, which is exactly what we want for leveling a craft essence. And it's also at MLB, 50% starting charge, NP damage of 10%, and buster performance of 10%. This is also really good for Oberon, as it's going to give that sort of NP damage that can be doubled up. Even then, we have an actual better welfare version coming out later next year during the Bunyan collab event called Cranking. This one's also attack scaling. This one also has 50% starting charge, but it has only 8% buster performance, so it loses 2% there. But what it loses there, it gains an NP damage, which is 5% more than Aerial Drive. However, remember, that's 5% more to get doubled up, so it's functionally 10% more as a result, and really a strong thing to have. So Cranking is very good C. You will get it welfare. You will be able to get all 5 copies, so definitely don't miss out on that collab event next year when it comes around. Now, you may not have access to these in the interim, or you may just find yourself on a budget. You don't really have as much, and for that, we do actually have some newer craft essences of the 4-star variety
that I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. So here you have Jewel Magic Bullet. This is a 4-star CE. It has been added to the gacha. If you get it to MLB, it is all attack scaling. It doesn't go up to 2k attack, but it does get you 1500. And again, this one is going to get you 50% starting charge and at least 10% bust performance up. So better than just running with something like Dragon's Meridian. If you just want to, start at 50%, but also boost damage a little bit, this is certainly something that could work for you if you're trying to get a little bit more budget out of your comp. And especially if you're not concerned with the overall damage, you just want to boost damage some. So I do think this is one of those ones that bears worth considering. However, there's probably one that's going to scale better with, yep, you guessed it, Oberon. And that's going to be Vessel Desire. This is another one of the new 4-star CEs. It's also all attack scaling. And this one is start battle at 50% gauge as well as NP damage by 15%. So again, that can be doubled up with Oberon on turn 3 for some extra spike there. So this one could be another decent sort of budgetary consideration if you manage to have your hands on it and you don't have your hands on any of those other welfares in the interim. So again, I hope that one's helpful to you in that regard. Now, the one thing you will notice is Bryn doesn't have any sort of sure hit or invuln pierce, so I did think that bringing up Sweet Crystal might be a decent one to also call your attention to. It's also all attack scaling, would start you out at 50% and allow you to ignore invuln. You wouldn't get a lot of extra damage out of it, but hey, if you weren't going to deal damage because the target had invuln stacks or some other crazy crap, this is certainly going to help you out there. The downside to Sweet Crystal is that it is available in the Da Vinci shop. And while that doesn't sound like a downside, the reason is because it costs 5 rare prisms per copy. So if you want all 5 copies, this is going to cost you 25 rare prisms for MLB. So do keep that in mind. It is not a cheap craft essence to get, but hey, it is a good one to have if you don't have other better alternatives. So just something that I thought I would bring up there for you guys as a little bit of a PSA on that. But again, I hope this was informative for you guys on Brynhildr. I think she's a very capable unit. She still holds up pretty well in spite of all the buffs to Enkidu, in spite of some of the other craziness that we have in the game. So it's just up to you to determine whether or not you really like her and whether or not you want to roll for her. And again, she does not have a lot of banners. So this one is kind of a, hey, get it here or you're going to probably be waiting until next year where pretty much every limited gets another banner. But it's up to you to determine whether or not you actually want her. So let me know what you guys think of Bryn down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to see you guys for the next video. Make sure you have a good one.